Hey guys, I'm Lucy from the Metalsmith Academy, and today I have something super special for you. Do you want to get really damn good at soldering, but you're just not sure where to start? Or have you ever felt like soldering is this kind of mysterious, complicated beast? Well, I am about to help you conquer your fears and show you that it's really not. You see, whether you're totally new to soldering or you've tried it before, it's pretty normal to get freaked out at the thought of melting metals, even with a butane torch, or worrying about burning yourself or something else by accident, or, of course, making sure you don't send your pieces into a melted disaster. The video you're about to see was originally part of our exclusive Metalsmith Academy, a paid community where we dive deep into all things metalsmithing. But to be honest, I've seen so many people struggling to get started soldering that I decided to release it for free. I don't want you to worry, okay? I'm going to teach you how easy it is to absolutely nail this soldering malarkey using a simple butane torch. I'm going to share pro tips for a clean, strong solder joint every time, plus show you how to prevent common mistakes a lot of people make when it comes to soldering. Before you keep watching though, I want you to download this free guide to go along with this video. And you're going to find a link in the description right below the video. And this bad boy is going to act as your soldering wingman or wingwoman and give you everything you need to know to learn how to safely and skillfully solder like an absolute pro. But that is enough rambling from me. Are you ready to set your creativity and knock your house on fire? Let's dive in. I understand this might be kind of obvious, but the first thing we're going to need is silver solder. And silver solder does come in a variety of forms, but today we're going to be using wire solder just to keep things simple. Just a quick heads up though, solder comes in various different melting temperatures. We have hard with the highest melting temperature. We have medium, hopefully that's kind of obvious. And then we have easy, which has the lowest melting temperature. There is a little problem with this though, and that is, as you can see, they all look exactly the same. So what I like to do is roll my solder or hammer it flat and then color code it with Sharpies. Kind of just helps me keep that a little bit more organized. But because I want to make sure that this works for you on the first try, we're going to go with medium solder for this. Now, if you find that you've only got hard or easy solder available, you can use that instead, no drama at all. Aside from the solder, we are going to need something to solder on. And hard charcoal is pretty much my go-to for most things. You can get soft or regular charcoal too, but I prefer the hard stuff. It just lasts a lot longer. But although we're going to be soldering on this, we never want to do that with our charcoal block placed directly on our workbench. What we need is a heat-proof surface to put underneath the charcoal itself. Aside from the fact that the charcoal block is going to get pretty hot when we hit it with a torch, this heat-proof surface also makes sure that, if we accidentally aim our torch off the charcoal block, we're not going to turn our workbench into a raving barbecue. This surface that I've got right here is actually called a Silkwar block. There are other options available, but we're going to keep it simple for this one. Just remember though, safety first. We always want to make sure that we have a heat-proof surface underneath our charcoal block. On the subject of safety though, I want you to always make sure you're working in a well-ventilated area. And you have one of these handy, just in case. It's also a solid idea to have eye protection too. I'm going to be using my Craft Optics here because basically I'm as blind as a bat. But you can also just use a regular pair of safety glasses too. Talking of fire, we are going to most definitely need a torch. Not a soldering iron, okay? They do not work for metalsmithing, but a proper fire-breathing torch. And a top pick to start out with is a butane torch. It's simple to use and there are no tanks involved. It's kind of a case of you just turn it on, click a button, and you're ready to go. We're also going to need some soldering tweezers, some copper tweezers, a small bowl of water, and this is for quenching things after soldering. And we're also going to need some pickle, and this is to clean our metal after soldering. But what the hell is pickle? I can hear that question already. Okay, so pickle is a mild acid, and we use that to clean our work after we've soldered it. To start out with, I recommend citric acid. It's relatively safe because it's pretty much used in cooking all the time, and you can buy it from the supermarket, no drama at all. So I've added 4 cups of water to my crock pot here. And then what I did is added a single cup of citric acid. And the reason for the crock pot is because pickle works a lot faster when it's warm. Another crucial ingredient that we can't solder without is flux. And there are actually a squillion different fluxes out there. But today we're going to be using Smart Flux from Peppy Tools and its super handy spray bottle. It's pretty much one of my favorite fluxes. Super easy to use, and it does work fantastically well with silver. But this is kind of really, really important, okay? We have to use flux for soldering sterling silver. Basically, if you try to solder without adding flux, it's not going to work. And this is because solder won't flow on a dirty surface. But I can kind of hear you thinking to yourself, but Luce, I just bought brand new silver. It's really nice and sparkly and new and clean. Okay, totally get that. But what happens is, when we heat silver without flux, you can see it oxidizes and turns black as it reacts with the oxygen in the air. It gets pretty damn dirty. By adding flux to the metal before heating it though, you'll notice it's remaining much cleaner. And this is because when flux is heated, it transforms into a kind of molten glass-like substance that shields the metal surface from the oxygen in the air. The flux itself, yep, that might look a little bit icky, but the silver underneath stays clean, and that is what allows the solder to flow. Alrighty, that is the tools covered. Let's do this. And to demo this one, I'm going to make a super simple ring band from some 12 gauge sterling silver wire using a nifty little tool called a ring bender. But this is just a quickie, okay? It's not a ring making class. And of course, there are tons of ways that you can do this that don't involve using a ring bender. Although I can't say that I don't absolutely love this piece of kit. Actually, I love all tools, just ignore me. But anyway, I'm just doing this super fast so that everything makes sense. I want you to be aware though that square wire is a little more difficult to form than round wire. So you want to make sure you're starting out with a lovely straight piece of wire for this, and just try to make sure as you're forming it that the wire isn't kind of twisting on itself. But basically what we want here, as I'm forming this, is for the edges of the wire to overlap slightly, just like this. Once we have the ring formed, what we want to do is cut through this part right here where our wire overlaps. And to do that, I'm going to use my jeweler's saw with a 1/0 blade in there. Now, just to make life a little easier if you're just getting started, a quick tip is to use a small piece of masking tape to tightly secure that overlapped area together. Anyway, now we can thread our saw blade through the ring and cut from the inside of the ring outwards. Why are we cutting from the inside out? Because I don't fancy smashing a saw blade into my fingers right now. I've done it too many times to count, and I can assure you it bloody hurts. Alrighty, we can get the tape off now, but this is looking great already. Obviously though, we need to get that closed up before we get to soldering. And this ring itself is pretty lightweight, so I can do that with my fingers, no drama at all. And what I'm doing is overlapping the edges slightly and then pulling them back into position. And that way our solder joint is nice and tight. And there we go, told you it was super fast. Hopefully you can see though, we have a really nice looking solder joint there. But before we get to soldering, I want to mention a couple of super important details. And that's because the quality of our solder joint, it really depends most on everything that we do before we actually solder. First up, you can see that our solder joint is closed perfectly. There are no gaps in there. Secondly, we can see that both sides of our ring band are aligned perfectly in all directions there. So before we even think about soldering, we want to make sure that we have the absolute perfect solder joint. So I'm going to place my ring down on my charcoal block and then cut a tiny piece of medium solder. Because I rolled my solder so thin, I can absolutely do that with a regular pair of scissors. But hopefully you can see just how tiny that piece of solder is. And seriously, the key to a good joint with minimal cleanup after is always to use as little solder as possible. Before we start soldering though, I want to have a look at this torch, and this is what we're going to be using. This one is the Tsunami, and it's from Peppy Tools, and it just runs off regular old butane that you can buy from a supermarket or a hardware store. There are actually an absolute huge amount of different butane torches available out there, but they all work in pretty much the same manner. If you want to know which are the butane torches I recommend, make sure to have a look at this guide as I break it all down for you. You'll learn what to look for in a torch, how to take care of yours, and of course, how to actually use it to solder, along with lots of pretty pictures so you can refer back to it anytime and make sure you don't miss a thing. So if you have a brand new torch, the first thing you're going to need to do is fill it up with butane. And like I said, you can just grab these from any hardware store or supermarket. So to fill up the torch, I'm going to remove the base, make sure the torch is turned off, kind of hoping that's really obvious. And then I'm going to turn the torch upside down so that the tip is facing away from me, just in case. Then we're going to grab this nozzle here and we're going to stick it right in this hole here. And then we're just going to push down. And when you see that little sputter right there, that means the torch is full. You can release the pressure on the canister, and then we can put the torch back on its base. And once we've done that, what we want to do is grab our butane canister, and we want to make sure that we are storing this well out of the way of where we're going to be soldering. To light the torch, what we're going to do is turn this little red knob here, about half a turn counterclockwise, and then we're going to click this little red button underneath to light the torch. Easy peasy. Just going to turn it off again for now, because I want to show you what to do if this little clicker button isn't working. And usually that's because that the safety catch right here is in the off position. And this is super important. If you have kids or maybe super smart animals running around, you want to be storing this always with this in the off position. So when we want to use it, we have it in the up position. And when we don't want to use it, we have it in the down position. Okay, so torch back on. And if we want to make this flame a little bigger, what we can do is open up the gas flow a little more counterclockwise like this. And if we want to make the flame smaller, we can just turn it again in the opposite direction. This little ring around the tip here adjusts the flame's temperature. But in most cases, we want the hottest flame possible. Butane isn't a particularly hot burning fuel, so generally we always need it on full blast. Okay, so I know I promised you simple here, but we do need to take a quick look at the flame itself. Because for sure, if you understand the flame and where the heat is and where it isn't, it's going to cut the time it takes to get you up and running in half. Seriously, this bit is super important. So let's turn the torch back on. And I'm going to grab my solder pick for this. And you can see, if I poke the flame right here at the tip of that inner blue cone, it is getting super duper toasty. It's really glowing. If I move the pick a little bit further back from that, you can see it's gradually getting duller and duller. But it's still super hot around this part right here. If, however, I place my solder pick right here at the tip of the torch, it's not glowing at all. And that means that the flame right here is a lot cooler. When soldering then, we want to be using this part of our flame, okay? From the tip of the inner blue cone to say a couple of inches directly behind that. We also want to make sure that we're not going off to the side of the flame either while we're soldering. So you can see we've got super hot there. If we move the pick to the side, just like 5 or 6 millimeters, you can see it's cooled right down. So remember, we want to be using from the tip of the blue cone and directly behind that when we're soldering. Rightio, we have the tool sorted out and we have our torch figured out. So let's get to soldering. And we have our ring on our charcoal block right here and a little piece of medium solder just an inch or so away from that. So to start with, I am going to spray a little flux all over the ring. And then pick up my solder with my soldering tweezers and place that directly on my solder joint. But it's really important here to make sure that the solder is actually in contact with both sides of the solder joint. Now, if you want an easy life here, for the first try anyway, I would say leave this and let it sit and dry for 5 minutes. You know, we can heat it right now, but the chances are if we do that, our flux is going to bubble and our solder is going to move off the joint. And like I said, I want to make sure that you get this on the first try. Alrighty, our flux is now all dry, okay? So we're going to actually get to soldering. And this is going to be the easy part now, I promise. But what we're going to do here is just heat the ring evenly using our torch. And we're just going to make sure that we're using the sweet spot of our flame, you know, that little bit just behind the inner blue cone. Really important here though, we're not actually heating the solder directly. And this is a common mistake. And we want to avoid doing that because if we heat it directly, we can actually overheat it. And if we overheat the solder, it's going to basically just increase the melting temperature and make life a little more difficult. So what we're going to do instead is actually heat the ring and then allow the heat to transfer from the ring to the solder. So we're going to heat the ring, starting opposite the joint first of all, and that's to make sure our solder joint doesn't open up halfway through soldering. We're going to keep that torch moving at all times and watch very carefully until you see that solder flash. And as soon as you see that flash, we want to remove the flame right away, okay? We want to solder the ring, not melt it. But anyway, I've just given that a few seconds, so now we can pick that up and quench it in our water. All right, and you can see there now we have a really lovely looking solder joint. The solder itself flowed evenly on both sides. It flowed all the way through. And thankfully, there's no huge ugly blobs of excess solder there. But you can obviously see that it is looking a little gunky. We got a bit of flux going on there and definitely a hell of a lot of oxidization. And this is actually what our pickle is for, okay? So we're going to grab the ring in our copper tweezers and then carefully place that into our pickle. When using the pickle though, it's really important to only use copper, wooden or plastic tweezers, alrighty? What we don't want to do is put our steel tweezers into the pickle, okay? Why not? Good question. Well, actually, if we put our steel tweezers in the pickle with our lovely silver ring in there, and then take the ring out, it's likely to come out of there looking a little bit pink from some kind of unintentional copper plating. But seriously, I'm going to fry your brain with that another time. Alrighty, our ring has been sitting in the pickle for about 5 minutes, so we should be just about ready to take that out. But when we do take this out, I don't know how that happened, it's magic. But when we do take this out, we want to give it a rinse before we handle it, okay? We don't want to leave pickle on the surface of the ring, and we don't really want to get it on our fingers either. Now, don't worry, citric acid isn't going to kill you. It's just certainly going to make you a little bit itchy and flaky if you get it on your skin a little too often. But there we go. You can see we have a pretty lovely looking solder joint right there and an almost perfect ring. It's just ready for a quick cleanup, rounding out, and a final polish. And because, though, we used so little solder right there, there really is nothing much at all to do in terms of cleanup. Woohoo! How did you find that lesson on soldering then? It's really not that complicated to get started at all, is it? While it can take a little while, though, to get the hang of it, once you learn how to solder, you're well on your way to becoming a seriously epic jeweler. And while this video covered many of the basics of soldering, enough to get you started for sure, there is so much more to discover, just to help you go from being a total beginner to a torch-wielding pro. So if you want to learn how to create unique, intricate pieces that you love, and also be able to troubleshoot when things do go south, I'd love to teach you how inside the Metalsmith Academy. For example, have you ever been in a situation where your solder just won't bloody flow? And it's been kind of super frustrating. Is it because the flame isn't big enough? Or is it because you're using the wrong soldering surface? Or something else entirely? I cover all of this and so much more in our classes inside the Metalsmith Academy. Plus, there are a ton of projects for you to dive into so that you can level up your skills super fast. From simple skills, such as learning how to solder junk rings like a pro, so you can make these epic, chunky, funky chains, to learning how to successfully solder gold to silver and create stunning stone set rings like this. If you want even more classes just like this one, only dive in much deeper into fully understanding soldering and all things metalsmithing, then I'd love to welcome you inside my Metalsmith Academy community. And this is where I hang out every day and support our students with all the training and guidance they need to bring their visions of beautiful jewelry to life. Plus, you won't just find the tools and training you need inside the Metalsmith Academy. You'll also find me and my small but mighty team of experts in the forums daily to answer all your burning questions. And of course, gossip about all things jewelry. To be honest, the real gems of the Metalsmith Academy are the people you'll meet inside. And I just know you're going to absolutely love it. Seriously, you can find out all about the Metalsmith Academy via one of the links below. Or if you've made it to the end of this video and you still haven't downloaded your free copy of this guide, what are you waiting for? Make sure to go and do that right now. There's something super special you can get exclusive access to if you sign up for your free copy of that. Alrighty, that is me over and out for now. Happy, successful soldering. I'll catch you later, guys.